Everyone talks, but few know how to truly communicate. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary often lies in your words. Your voice can open doors, build trust, and make people remember you. But if you can't express your ideas with clarity and emotion, your brilliance stays hidden. This book will help you master the way you speak, not just to be heard, but to be felt. Stay with this journey. Make sure to subscribe, because this is where you'll learn to talk, connect, and influence like a pro. Chapter 1. The Power of First Impressions. People decide who you are long before you speak. Your energy enters the room first. Your face, your body, your tone, all whisper a message before you ever say a word. That's the power of first impressions. They happen fast, in seconds. And once formed, they're hard to change. At work, in meetings, on stage, or even online, your presence communicates before your mouth opens. Most people think communication starts with words, but it starts with perception. How you carry yourself tells people how seriously to take you. The way you walk into a room speaks volumes. The way you sit, the way you make eye contact, the way you listen. These small actions shape what people believe about you. Confidence is the first language of connection, not arrogance, not attitude. Calm, grounded confidence. You don't need to be loud to be noticed. You need to be centered. People feel calm energy the same way they feel chaos. When you carry calm confidence, the room trusts you faster. Think about this. When someone meets you, they don't just see your face. They see your intention. They notice if you're comfortable in your skin, if you're open or guarded, if your smile feels real or rehearsed. Authenticity leaves a stronger impression than perfection ever could. People remember how you made them feel, not what you wore, not what you said, but the emotion your presence gave them. That's why your first impression is more emotional than visual. It's about energy. It's about how you make others feel about themselves in your presence. When people feel seen and respected, they instantly like you. When they feel judged or ignored, they pull away, even without knowing why. First impressions are formed through emotional signals. The warmth in your smile, the softness in your tone, the steadiness in your posture. Every signal builds a story about who you are. That story determines whether people listen, trust, or close off. You can't control everything people think, but you can control the experience you create when they meet you. And that starts with awareness. Be aware of your body language. Are your shoulders tense? Are your arms crossed? Are you avoiding eye contact? Tension communicates fear. Closed posture communicates disinterest. Stillness, openness, and presence communicate strength. Even silence has a sound. The way you pause before speaking tells people how confident you are. Rushing signals insecurity. Pausing signals control. When you slow down, people lean in. The secret to powerful first impressions is self-regulation. You can't fake calm. You must feel it. That comes from preparation. When you prepare, your body relaxes. Your mind clears. Your energy steadies. Walk into every room knowing who you are and why you're there. That inner clarity radiates outward. And people respond to that energy. Because deep down, everyone wants to be around certainty. It feels safe. People don't follow the loudest voice. They follow the most grounded presence. When you speak, use your tone like an instrument. Low, steady, and clear tones carry authority. Rushed or high tones create tension. Your tone tells people how you feel about yourself. If it's steady, they'll trust you. If it's shaky, they'll doubt you. Even your breathing matters. When you breathe shallow, you sound anxious. When you breathe deep, you sound calm. That's why great communicators never rush to speak. They breathe first, then deliver words that land with weight. Remember, confidence isn't about showing off. It's about being present without pretending. True confidence is quiet. It's eye contact without intimidation. It's posture without pride. It's voice without vanity. That's what makes first impressions powerful. They feel effortless. You don't need to announce your presence. You embody it. Every great communicator has mastered that invisible presence. They walk in quietly, yet the room notices. They don't demand attention. They attract it, because their energy says, I belong here. And when you feel like you belong, others start believing it too. Your clothing, grooming, and appearance also play their part. Not because they define your worth, but because they show respect for the moment. Neatness reflects discipline. Cleanliness reflects order. And style reflects awareness. When people see that you take care of yourself, they subconsciously trust you more. It signals self-respect, and self-respect earns respect from others. But no outfit can hide nervous energy. No perfume can mask insecurity. That's why inner calm will always be your strongest impression. Train yourself to enter every room with balance. Walk, breathe, and speak as if you already belong. Before you say your first word, your energy has already introduced you, so make it count. Practice eye contact in conversation, not as a tactic, but as a way of being present. When you look at someone fully, you make them feel important, and people remember how you made them feel long after the meeting ends. That's communication at its purest form. Connection without words. To master first impressions, focus less on impressing, focus more on connecting. Don't perform. Be, because performance fades, but presence stays. The secret isn't in saying the right thing. It's in being the right energy. When your energy is right, your words naturally follow. Speak with intention, not impulse. Listen with curiosity, not caution. Smile with sincerity, not strategy. That's how first impressions turn into lasting relationships. Every introduction is an opportunity to set a tone, to tell people through your energy, this is who I am, and this is what I stand for. And when you do that consistently, your reputation becomes your presence. You won't need to introduce yourself anymore. Your energy will do it for you. Because the truth is, people may forget your name, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel when they first met you. That's the art of first impressions. Not about being perfect, but being powerfully human. Chapter 2. The Psychology of Connection. Every conversation is more than words. It's an exchange of energy, a subtle dance between what's said and what's felt. Connection is not built through talking. It's built through understanding. People may forget your sentences, but they will never forget the emotion behind them. That's the psychology of connection. It lives not in the mind, but in the heart. When you connect with someone, something shifts. Walls lower, tension softens, trust begins. Real connection doesn't come from perfect communication. It comes from genuine presence. You don't need to be impressive. You need to be real. People are drawn to honesty more than brilliance, because in a world full of noise, authenticity feels rare. Connection begins the moment someone feels seen. It's when they realize, you're not trying to prove anything, you're just here with me. That sense of safety is what opens hearts. At work, connection determines how people respond to you. You can have the best ideas, but if people don't feel connected to you, they won't follow. The most persuasive communicators don't manipulate emotion. They understand it. They work with it gently. They know how people think, how they feel, and what they fear. Because underneath every conversation, there's an emotional current. People want to feel respected. They want to feel understood. They want to feel important. When you can meet those needs through communication, you create influence that lasts. This is where psychology meets empathy. Most people listen to reply. Few listen to understand. The difference is emotional awareness. If you listen deeply, you start hearing what's not being said. You notice tone. You sense hesitation. You catch the small shifts in body language that reveal truth. That's where connection begins. In the silence between words. The best communicators are not always the best talkers. They're the best observers. They notice. They read energy. They adapt their tone to the moment. They understand that people's reactions are not random. They're emotional responses to how they're made to feel. If you make people feel small, they pull away. If you make them feel seen, they open up. Connection is emotional alignment. It's when two nervous systems relax in each other's presence. That's why calm people connect faster. Their energy feels safe. You can't connect when you're rushed. You can't connect when you're distracted. Connection needs stillness. It needs attention. Put your phone down. Look them in the eyes. Listen not just to their words, but to their energy. People can feel when you're truly there. And when they do, they begin to trust. At its core, communication is psychological. Every word you say triggers emotion. Every emotion drives behavior. That's why the way you make people feel is more powerful than what you say. Connection also requires vulnerability. When you share your truth, your real thoughts, your honest experiences, you give others permission to do the same. Walls come down when someone finally dares to be human. You don't connect through perfection. You connect through relatability. People don't trust perfect. They trust real. Vulnerability doesn't mean oversharing. It means showing emotion without fear. When people see your sincerity, they stop seeing you as competition. They start seeing you as connection. That's how leaders build influence, not by commanding attention, but by earning trust. To build connection, you must understand emotional needs. Every person wants to feel one thing: valued. When your communication tells them, "You matter," they remember it long after the meeting ends. Even small gestures matter. A nod, a smile, a pause to truly listen. Each moment says, "I see you." And that's the foundation of connection. The psychology of connection also depends on timing. You can say the right thing at the wrong time and lose everything. Before you speak, read the room. Is the energy open or closed? Are people tense or calm? Do they need logic or empathy? Connection happens when you match energy before trying to shift it. If someone is angry, start with calm, not advice. If someone is hurt, start with understanding, not correction. You can't change emotion until you've acknowledged it. That's communication at its highest level. Emotionally intelligent influence. It's not manipulation. It's alignment. You meet people where they are, then gently lead them to where they need to be. When you connect emotionally, logic follows naturally, because no one truly listens until they feel understood. In the workspace, connection determines culture. A connected team communicates better, collaborates deeper, and trusts faster. That's why great leaders focus less on talking and more on creating space for others to speak. They know that connection grows in openness, not in authority. The best meetings don't feel like performances. They feel like conversations. Connection builds safety. Safety builds honesty. Honesty builds results. That's the invisible chain of emotional success. If you want to connect deeply, be curious about people. Ask yourself silently, what might they be feeling right now? What might they need from me in this moment? That quiet awareness changes how you speak. Your tone softens, your words slow. Your energy becomes calm, and that calm builds trust faster than charisma ever could. Because connection is not built on charm, it's built on care. When people feel your care, they listen differently. They believe differently. They work differently. Connection doesn't require power. It requires presence. You don't need to control people. You need to understand them. Understanding gives you quiet influence, the kind that lasts long after the conversation ends. And once you learn the psychology of connection, you'll realize something powerful. It's not about being liked. It's about being felt. People don't always remember what you said, but they always remember what you made them feel. That's why the greatest communicators are remembered, not for their words, but for their presence. The more you understand people, the more natural your communication becomes. You stop trying to sound right. You start trying to connect. And when connection happens, communication flows effortlessly. It's no longer performance. It's energy. The psychology of connection is simple. Be human first, speaker second. Because communication without connection is just noise. But communication with connection, that's influence. That's leadership. That's legacy. Chapter 3. The Power of Active Listening. Listening is not hearing. It's understanding. Few truly listen. Most people hear sounds. They wait for their turn to talk. Active listening is more than a communication skill. They nod while preparing a reply. They miss what's really being said between the words, in the pauses, in the silence. It's a connection skill. That's why great communicators don't dominate conversations. It tells the other person, I value you. I'm present. I care about what you're saying. They guide them through attention. Not in technique, not in tactics. The power of listening lies in presence. When you listen fully, without interrupting, presence, people feel safe to open up. They trust you because you gave them space to be heard. They feel lighter. They start saying things they never planned to. You're not agreeing. Listening is an invisible act of respect. You're acknowledging, because people don't follow instructions. Negotiations, leadership, teamwork, even feedback. In the workplace, active listening transforms everything. They follow understanding. You don't need to convince them. When someone feels you've truly understood them, they start aligning naturally. That's emotional influence. The truth is, most communication problems don't come from what's said. They come from what's missed. The missed signal, the missed emotion, the missed moment. Every time you interrupt someone, you send a silent message. My voice matters more than yours. You send another. You matter. And every time you listen fully, that message builds trust faster than any title or authority. Active listening is quiet power. It's the ability to stay calm while others speak with emotion. To master communication, you must master stillness. It's patience in a world that rushes. It's control, not over others, but over yourself. Because listening is not passive. It's an active choice to give attention when distraction is easier. When someone talks, you're not just hearing their words. You're hearing their need, the story behind the sentence. That's how you connect deeper. The emotion behind the tone. It's about engagement. Active listening isn't about silence alone. You respond with your eyes. You ask short, meaningful questions to show understanding. Your subtle expressions that say, I'm here. Your nods. People love to be around good listeners because it feels rare. You reflect what they said, not to repeat, but to confirm. That's how you turn conversation into connection. In a noisy world, attention is the ultimate form of kindness. When employees feel heard, they don't just stay. And in leadership, listening builds loyalty. They take more ownership. They share more ideas. They grow. Because being heard makes people believe they matter. They give more effort. Listening also teaches you more than speaking ever could. You learn patterns. You notice emotions. You begin to read people with quiet accuracy. Tone reveals the rest. When you listen deeply, you can sense when someone is anxious. Words reveal half the truth. You can sense when they disagree, even if they nod, even if they smile, not to manipulate, but to understand better. That level of awareness gives you emotional advantage, because communication is not about control, and clarity is born in silence. It's about clarity. Most people fear silence. They fill every gap with words. But professionals use silence as space. It lets emotions breathe. They know that silence invites truth. It turns conversation from reaction into reflection. The next time you speak with someone, try this, say less. Let them finish. And watch how they start sharing more. Wait. When people don't feel rushed. That's the art of listening. Not just to respond. They reveal the truth. to reveal. In emotional conversations, listening is everything. When someone is upset, you can't fix them with logic. You calm them with presence. Just listen. Because most people don't want solutions. They want to be seen. Let them release what they're carrying. If you can make someone feel understood, that's the psychology of listening. You've already started healing them. Every great communicator, every counselor, every leader, every negotiator, it's empathy in action, is a great listener first. They understand tone, rhythm, and silence like language. They read what's beneath the surface. They know that when people talk, they're revealing emotions. They're not just sharing thoughts, sometimes pain, sometimes fear, sometimes hope. And the listener's job is to hold that safely. You don't interrupt it. You let it exist. You don't analyze it. That's active listening. Even in conflict, it works like magic. When tempers rise, listening lowers defenses. When people feel understood, anger melts faster than argument ever could. Because most fights don't need victory, they need validation. The simple act of saying, "I hear you, I understand what you mean," can end hours of conflict in minutes. That's power. And that's what separates a communicator from a leader. Leaders listen beyond ego. They listen for meaning, not mistakes. They listen to unite, not to win. It's the foundation of trust. In every great organization, listening creates harmony. The leader who listens learns what's broken before it breaks. They catch silence before it turns into frustration. They hear what's missing before it becomes a problem. That awareness saves time, relationships, and morale, because communication doesn't fail suddenly. It fades slowly. Each time someone doesn't feel heard. When someone speaks, look at them fully. Listening keeps connection alive. To build this habit, practice mindful attention. Don't finish their sentence. Don't plan your reply. Just listen. You'll notice your mind will wander. That's natural. Bring it back again and again. Listening is like a muscle. Over time, you'll realize the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. It makes you calmer. Listening changes you. More patient, more intuitive. You stop reacting to everything. You start responding to what truly matters. And that shift changes your relationships completely. People will start coming to you for advice. Not because you talk well, but because you listen well. That's when you know you've crossed from conversation into influence. Because the person who listens best leads best. Listening gives you insight others miss. It gives you control others crave. And it gives you understanding others respect. Every word you don't say, every silence you allow, every pause you hold, becomes a tool of power. Learn first to listen like one. So if you want to talk like a pro, the stronger your words will sound. Because the better you listen, listening sharpens your empathy. It builds emotional discipline. It deepens your awareness. And it transforms you from just a speaker. That's the secret. Into a communicator. The world doesn't need more voices. It needs more listeners. And when you master that art, your words will start carrying a weight they never had before. Because people will know you speak only after you've truly heard. That's the power of active listening. It makes you a better human. It doesn't just make you a better communicator. Chapter 4, Communicating with Clarity and Confidence. Clarity is strength. Confidence is power. When you bring them together, your words begin to move people. Most people don't struggle with what to say. They struggle with how to say it. Their thoughts are messy. Their tone uncertain. Their delivery full of hesitation. And because of that, even their truth sounds weak. But when you learn to speak with clarity and confidence, you no longer chase validation. You command attention naturally. Clarity begins inside your mind. If your thoughts are scattered, your words will be too. You can't express what you haven't understood. Before you speak, know what you want to say. Not every thought deserves words. Not every feeling needs sound. Take a moment. Organize your thoughts. Find the message. When your message is clear, your communication becomes clean. People don't get lost trying to figure out your meaning. They just get it. Clarity doesn't mean saying a lot. It means saying what matters, simply. The greatest communicators use the fewest words to express the biggest ideas. They speak with precision, not volume. Confidence grows from preparation. You don't become confident by pretending. You become confident by practicing until calm becomes your natural state. Before every meeting, every call, every stage, prepare. Know your points, know your purpose, and trust yourself to deliver. When you prepare well, your mind stops fearing mistakes. It starts focusing on impact. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's certainty. It's knowing that your words deserve space. The calmest people are often the most confident. They don't rush. They don't fill silence. They let their words breathe. Because silence isn't weakness, it's power. The pause between your sentences gives your words gravity. It makes people lean in. If you speak too fast, your power evaporates. If you speak too slow, your presence fades. Find your rhythm steady, clear. Confidence isn't about perfection. It's about presence. You don't need to sound flawless. You need to sound real. Your natural tone, your authentic voice, that's your signature. People connect more with imperfection than performance. Because the truth is, people don't want perfect communicators. They want honest ones. Clarity also comes from listening. You can't respond clearly if you didn't hear clearly. Listen with full attention. Understand the question before answering. Don't rush to reply, respond with intention. That moment of pause tells others that your words matter, that you choose them carefully, that you speak from thought, not reaction. In the workspace, clarity is leadership. A clear communicator builds efficient teams. The vague communicator builds confusion. When your instructions are clear, people move faster, errors drop, and respect rises. People trust those who make things simple, because simplicity signals mastery. The best speakers take complex ideas and express them in ways a child could understand. That's not weakness. That's brilliance. Confidence, on the other hand, comes from emotional control. You can't sound confident if your emotions control your voice. Learn to breathe before you speak. A calm breath resets your nervous system. It lowers your tension. It centers your thoughts. Your breathing is the foundation of your tone. Shallow breath makes your voice shaky. Deep, slow breath makes it steady. That's why before important moments, great communicators pause, breathe, and ground themselves. They don't rush into the spotlight. They arrive with intention. Every confident communicator has learned to manage inner noise. Self-doubt, overthinking, insecurity. They all whisper lies. The trick is not to silence them, but to move forward despite them. Courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you speak even when you are. The audience doesn't see your nerves. They see your energy. If you channel that energy into focus, you turn fear into fire. That's the hidden psychology of confidence. It's not the absence of fear, it's control over it. Clarity and confidence also depend on authenticity. You can't fake what's not real. If your goal is to impress, you'll sound forced. If your goal is to express, you'll sound powerful. People can feel intention. They may not know why, but they always sense truth. Speak from your values. Speak from your belief. Speak from the place inside you that wants to add value, not seek approval. That's how you stay confident in any room. Remember, communication isn't a performance. It's an exchange of trust. Confidence without empathy feels cold. Clarity without compassion feels sharp. Balance them. Be firm, not hard. Be calm, not dull. Be confident, not controlling. True clarity means people leave a conversation knowing exactly what you meant and feeling respected while hearing it. Confidence grows from experience. The more you speak, the better you get at aligning your words with your thoughts. But experience only teaches if you reflect. After every interaction, ask yourself silently, did I express what I meant? Did I make them feel understood? That awareness refines your communication more than any course or book ever could. In leadership, clarity creates trust. People follow those who explain direction without confusion. They feel secure around those who sound sure. But sounding sure doesn't mean being stubborn. It means being certain about your intention, yet open to new perspectives. Confidence with humility is irresistible. It draws people in. And when people trust your clarity and feel your confidence, they start listening, not out of obligation, but out of respect. Your communication becomes magnetic, not because of fancy words, but because of emotional consistency. Every great communicator has mastered emotional consistency. They speak the same whether to one person or 1,000. Their energy doesn't change with audience size. Their presence remains grounded. That's the secret of clarity. You stop performing. You start being. When you know who you are, you no longer fear what others think. You stop trying to sound confident. You start being confident, and that shift changes everything. Your tone, your posture, your presence. Confidence makes your voice steady. Clarity makes your words sharp. Together, they make you unforgettable. So the next time you speak, slow down. Know what you want to say. Feel your words before you deliver them. Because your message will never be stronger than your mind in that moment. And when your mind is clear and calm, your words find their power. People don't remember long speeches. They remember sentences that felt true. Say less, mean more. That's clarity. That's confidence. That's communication at its highest form. Because when you master clarity and confidence, you don't just talk like a pro. You inspire like one. Chapter 5. How to handle difficult conversations. Every professional faces them. Every relationship requires them. And every leader must master them. Difficult conversations. They're uncomfortable. They're emotional. They're necessary. Most people avoid them. They delay. They soften. They pretend everything is fine until silence becomes tension. But silence never fixes anything. It only delays the truth. Handling difficult conversations isn't about being harsh. It's about being honest with control. It's the art of saying what's hard to hear in a way that can still be received. Because truth without empathy wounds, and empathy without truth deceives. Balance them, and you communicate with wisdom. When a difficult conversation is coming, the first thing to control is not the words, it's yourself. Emotion is contagious. If you enter with anger, they'll defend. If you enter with fear, they'll withdraw. If you enter with calm, they'll open. That's why emotional preparation matters more than verbal preparation. Take a moment before you speak. Breathe. Ground yourself. Remind your mind that this is not a fight, it's an exchange. The goal of a difficult conversation is not to win. It's to understand. If you go in trying to prove a point, you'll lose connection. If you go in trying to find clarity, you'll create progress. Begin with presence. Listen first. Don't assume you know what the other person feels. Ask calmly, what's been on your mind about this? Then pause. Let silence do its work. Silence allows truth to rise. When they speak, don't interrupt. Even if it hurts to hear, let them release it. Because release leads to relief. Then, when it's your turn, speak slowly. Speak clearly. Speak from intention, not irritation. You can express disagreement without disrespect. Say what you mean without raising your voice. Lower tones command more authority than loud ones ever will. When emotion rises, volume must fall. That's how control looks. Use I statements, not you accusations. Instead of saying you always do this, say I feel concerned when this happens. It changes the entire energy. Blame creates walls. Ownership creates bridges. People can handle truth when it's delivered with respect. Respect doesn't mean agreement. It means dignity. It means you value the relationship even while addressing the issue. In difficult conversations, clarity saves time. Say what needs to be said. Don't hide behind soft phrases or over-polished words. Truth loses its power when it's diluted. Be kind, but be direct. Say it clean, not cruel. Confidence is what allows you to hold eye contact even when the moment feels heavy. You stay grounded because your purpose is not to hurt, it's to heal misunderstanding. The best communicators understand that confrontation isn't conflict. It's clarity. Avoiding the talk keeps confusion alive. Facing it clears the air. And every time you do, your communication muscle grows stronger. Because it takes emotional maturity to stay calm while truth shakes the room. When tension rises, pause before reacting. Breath becomes your power tool. A single deep breath can stop a bad decision. It gives your mind space to think before your ego takes over. Most conversations go wrong, not because of what's said, but because of how it's said. Tone breaks more relationships than words ever could. That's why, in moments of heat, slow everything down. Your pace, your tone, your body language. The calmer you look, the safer they feel. And when people feel safe, they start listening. If emotions start to overflow, name them. I can see this is frustrating. I understand this feels unfair. Acknowledgement calms the nervous system. People relax when their emotions are seen. That's empathy in motion. Once calm returns, bring the focus back to resolution. Ask, how can we move forward from here? Because difficult conversations should always end with direction, not with pain. You don't want to leave people broken. You want to leave them clear. In leadership, your ability to handle these moments defines your credibility. Anyone can talk when things are easy, but leaders are revealed when words are hard. How you handle tension tells people who you really are. If you explode, they fear you. If you avoid, they lose faith in you. But if you stay composed, they respect you. That's emotional mastery. It's not about being perfect. It's about staying human under pressure. In personal relationships, the same rule applies. The hardest conversations often reveal the deepest truths. Sometimes people aren't wrong. They're just hurt. And when you listen with patience instead of pride, you often find pain hiding under anger. When you address that pain with calm honesty, you transform the entire dynamic. That's how love survives confrontation. That's how respect deepens through disagreement. Because truth doesn't destroy connection. Ego does. If you can remove ego from the conversation, you'll see how easy communication actually is. It's ego that makes us defensive. It's ego that wants to be right more than kind. It's ego that confuses strength with dominance. But communication is not dominance. It's alignment. It's two people trying to understand one reality from two different angles. That's why patience is your most powerful weapon. The one who remains calm holds the conversation. Control the pace. Protect your tone. Guide with empathy. That's how professionals communicate under pressure. Never match someone's energy when they lose control. You can't calm fire with fire. Stay grounded, stay kind, and keep your purpose in focus. If things get stuck, take a pause. Say, let's take a moment and revisit this later. Stepping back isn't weakness. It's wisdom. Because clarity often comes in quiet. When emotions cool, logic returns, and from logic, solutions emerge. A difficult conversation doesn't have to end in separation. Sometimes it begins a new understanding. It becomes a reset, a moment where both sides grow up a little. When handled right, these talks don't destroy relationships. They strengthen them. Because truth spoken with care is medicine. It may sting, but it heals. And every time you handle one with maturity, you build emotional credibility with others and with yourself. People will start trusting you not just for what you say, but for how you say it. They'll know You can speak truth without making me feel small. That's rare. That's leadership. In the end, every difficult conversation is a test of balance, between honesty and empathy, between truth and grace, between words and silence. Master that balance and you can navigate any storm. Because communication isn't about avoiding discomfort. It's about guiding it toward growth. So when the next difficult conversation comes, don't run from it. Prepare for it, breathe through it, and lead it. Because the ability to face what others fear to say, that's what makes you a communicator worth listening to. Chapter 6. The Art of Persuasion. Persuasion is not manipulation. It's influence built on trust. It's not about forcing people to agree with you. It's about helping them see what you see. Every day, you persuade, in meetings, in emails, in relationships, in quiet moments where you need others to believe in your vision. But real persuasion doesn't start with talking. It starts with understanding. Before you convince anyone, you must first connect with them. Connection creates openness, and openness creates possibility. You can't move a mind you haven't touched emotionally. That's why persuasion is both an art and a science. The science is logic. The art is emotion. You need both. Logic tells the mind what's right. Emotion makes the heart care. If you only use logic, people agree, but forget. If you only use emotion, people feel, but doubt. When you blend both, they remember, believe, and act. That's persuasion. Every persuasive message follows a rhythm. Connection, credibility, clarity. First, you connect. People must feel safe enough to listen. Then you build credibility. They must trust that you know what you're talking about. Finally, you bring clarity. They must understand exactly what you mean. If any of these three are missing, your words lose power. Connection opens the door. Credibility invites them in. Clarity makes them stay. The biggest mistake people make in persuasion is trying to win. You don't persuade by overpowering. You persuade by aligning. The moment you try to dominate, people resist. But when you make them feel included, they lean in. It's human nature. People support what they help create. So invite them into your idea. Make them part of it. Use we more than I. Because the most powerful persuasion isn't about you. It's about shared benefit. You're not saying, listen to me. You're saying, let's do this together. That subtle shift changes everything. The foundation of persuasion is empathy. You can't move people unless you understand what moves them. Learn their fears, their desires, their values. When you speak to those, you stop sounding like a salesperson. You start sounding like a solution. Persuasion is not about changing people's minds. It's about awakening what already exists in them. You help them see what they already want, just more clearly. That's why great communicators listen more than they talk. They let others reveal what matters most to them, then frame their message around that truth. That's alignment. That's art. To persuade, your words must sound sincere, but sincerity can't be faked. It comes from genuine belief. You can't sell what you don't believe. You can't inspire with what you don't live. But people can sense authenticity faster than words can hide it. Your tone, your eyes, your timing, they all betray your truth. So before trying to persuade others, make sure you're persuaded yourself. When you speak from conviction, you don't need to push. Your energy pulls. Because persuasion doesn't happen in their ears. It happens in their emotions. The tone of your voice, the calm in your delivery, the warmth in your body language, those do half the work. Your posture should say, I believe in this. Your tone should say, I respect your choice. Because force breaks trust. Respect builds it. And trust is the soil where persuasion grows. Never rush persuasion. People need time to process new ideas. If you push too fast, they shut down. If you plant with patience, they open up. You can't harvest trust overnight. It grows through consistent clarity and care. Think of persuasion like a rhythm. You lead with emotion, support with logic, close with purpose. Emotion catches attention. Logic builds reason. Purpose creates action. Every great speaker knows this pattern. They start by telling a story because stories bypass resistance. They speak to shared human experience. They make people feel seen. Then they add facts. They show evidence, numbers, real examples. Finally, they end with a call, a clear, confident direction. That's how Martin Luther King Jr. moved millions. That's how Steve Jobs made innovation sound like destiny. That's how every persuasive voice throughout history inspired change. Not through dominance, but through emotional truth. In personal communication, persuasion works the same way. If you want your partner to understand your perspective, don't start with your need. Start with their feeling. Say, "I understand how you might see it," before saying, "Here's how I see it." That empathy keeps the conversation safe. Safe spaces are fertile ground for new understanding. When you speak, keep your tone gentle but firm. Firm enough to show confidence, gentle enough to show care. That's the balance of persuasion. Confidence without pressure. In business, persuasion is leadership. Every decision, every project, every pitch depends on how well you can make others believe in an idea. But belief doesn't come from charisma alone. It comes from clarity, credibility, and consistency. If your message changes every week, people stop listening. If your energy wavers, people stop believing. Consistency builds conviction. Conviction builds credibility. And credibility builds persuasion. So when you speak, make your point simple. One message per moment. Don't overload people with too many ideas. Clarity makes persuasion stronger. Every sentence should serve your goal. If it doesn't, remove it. Simplicity is persuasive. Complexity is confusing. The more clearly you speak, the more people trust that you know what you're saying. And trust is persuasion's strongest currency. Even in negotiation, persuasion isn't pressure. It's patience. It's the ability to read the emotional temperature of the room and adjust. If someone hesitates, don't force. Ask what they need to feel confident. Find alignment. Great persuaders don't overpower resistance. They dissolve it through understanding. They don't say, "You're wrong." They say, "I see why you think that." Then they guide from that point toward new clarity. That's the psychology of influence. The real art of persuasion lies not in clever words, but in emotional intelligence. It's knowing when to speak, when to pause, when to let silence build weight. Because silence makes people think. It gives space for agreement to grow. If you want your words to stay in someone's mind, don't fill every second with sound. Let meaning echo in the quiet. Confidence in persuasion means being okay with silence, because silence means they're thinking, and thinking is the first step toward agreeing. Remember, you don't need everyone to agree with you immediately. You just need them to stay open. Keep that door open with respect, calm, and patience. The most persuasive communicators don't rush the outcome. They trust the process. They plant seeds of belief. They water them with consistency, and eventually, those beliefs grow roots. That's influence. It's quiet. It's steady. It's lasting. When you communicate with this kind of presence, your words stop sounding like persuasion. They start sounding like truth. And truth, spoken with sincerity, doesn't need to convince. It simply connects. Because people don't change their minds when they lose an argument. They change when they feel understood. So be that voice, calm, clear, compassionate. Persuade not through pressure, but through presence. Because when you master the art of persuasion, you don't have to push people to move. They move because they trust you. That's not manipulation. That's mastery. Chapter 7. Building Trust Through Communication. Trust is the foundation of every powerful relationship. Without it, no message lands, no influence lasts, and no connection survives. You can have all the right words, the perfect tone, the best strategy, but if people don't trust you, they stop listening. Trust isn't something you demand. It's something you earn, slowly, patiently, through consistency. Every time you speak, you're either building trust or breaking it. There is no in between. Trust is emotional currency, and communication is how you spend it. The first rule of trust is honesty. But honesty doesn't mean saying everything you think. It means meaning everything you say. People can forgive mistakes. They can forgive imperfection. But they rarely forgive dishonesty. Because when trust breaks, it doesn't just hurt. It changes how people see you. In communication, honesty creates safety. It tells others, I may not always be right, but I'll always be real. That kind of authenticity is rare and powerful. When people sense your transparency, they start to relax. They stop guessing your intentions. They start believing your words. That's the first stage of trust. Consistency of truth. The second stage is consistency of action. What you say and what you do must match. Words build expectation. Actions confirm belief. When your actions echo your words, people begin to rely on you. Reliability is quiet credibility. It's the reason some people walk into a room and everyone listens. Not because they speak loudly, but because they've proven their words carry weight. You can't fake reliability. It takes time. It takes follow-through. The moment you break a promise, your message loses power, because trust is fragile. It's slow to build, fast to break, and even slower to repair. That's why every conversation matters. Even your tone, your body language, your pauses, they all communicate trust or uncertainty. When your tone wavers, people sense hesitation. When your words contradict your face, they sense something's off. Trust is built when everything aligns. Your words, your energy, your expression. That alignment tells people, this person means what they say. In leadership, trust is the invisible force that moves people. It's not the title that inspires. It's the integrity behind it. A leader who listens builds more loyalty than a leader who commands. Because trust grows through understanding, not authority. When people feel heard, they start believing your intentions. They don't follow orders. They follow your example. That's the difference between management and influence. Trust in communication also depends on emotional safety. People only open up when they feel they won't be judged. If your presence feels safe, they'll share truth. If it feels tense, they'll stay silent. And silence kills communication faster than disagreement ever could. To build safety, be mindful. Never use someone's vulnerability as a weapon. Never mock their emotions. Never make them regret being honest with you. Because the moment they do, they stop trusting you with their truth. And when truth disappears, connection dies quietly. Trust doesn't come from big speeches. It comes from small moments of respect. A nod, a pause, a thank you that feels genuine. Those moments tell others, you're safe with me. That's communication at its highest form. Not about information, but about reassurance. People remember how they felt after talking to you. If they feel lighter, they'll trust you deeper. If they feel smaller, they'll keep their distance. So, every interaction is an opportunity to earn or to erode trust. The more trust you build, the easier communication becomes. You don't need to explain much. People start believing your intent before your words. Because trust shortens the distance between minds. In business, trust is reputation. In relationships, trust is connection. In leadership, trust is influence. But the source is always the same, your consistency. You can't speak one way in public and act another in private. People notice patterns. They may not say it out loud, but their intuition records everything. That's why authenticity is not just moral, it's practical. People can sense when your smile is rehearsed, They can sense when your enthusiasm is forced. They can sense when your compliments are strategy, not sincerity. And when they sense it, they withdraw. Because trust dies where performance begins. Real communication doesn't need a mask. It needs presence. To build lasting trust, be transparent about your limits. Say "I don't know" when you don't. Say "I made a mistake" when you did. Those words are not weakness. They're proof of integrity. Perfection creates pressure. Honesty creates peace. When people know they can count on your truth, they stop testing your intent. They start respecting your humanity. That's real trust. Clarity also plays a major role. People don't trust confusion. They trust clarity. When your message is simple, your audience feels safe. When it's complicated, they feel cautious. Clear communication tells people, "I have nothing to hide." Confusion, even when unintentional, feels like deception. So always keep your message transparent. Say what you mean what you say. No drama. No over-explaining. No mixed signals. Clarity earns confidence. Confidence earns trust. In moments of conflict, trust becomes fragile. People listen less and fear more. That's when calm communication saves everything. Don't rush to defend yourself. Listen fully. Acknowledge emotion. Speak slowly. When your tone stays grounded in heat, your credibility doubles. Because calmness in chaos builds trust faster than any promise. It tells people, "You're safe here. I'm not here to fight." Even in disagreement, respect should stay. The more respect you show during tension, the stronger the bond becomes afterward. That's how professionals handle pressure, with grace, not aggression. Over time, people stop fearing your truth. They start trusting your fairness. And when trust becomes mutual, communication turns effortless. You no longer walk on eggshells. You no longer question every word. You just speak and believe you'll be understood. That's the peace trust creates. When people trust you, your words carry weight. You don't need to raise your voice. Your calm becomes your authority. Your truth becomes your influence. And the greatest part, trust multiplies. When you build it with one person, they pass it on. Your presence starts earning respect in rooms you haven't entered yet. That's reputation, the echo of your communication. So if you want to build something that lasts, a team, a relationship, a legacy, start with trust. Because trust is not just a feeling. It's communication made visible. It's the sound of consistency, the look of respect, and the rhythm of integrity. Trust takes time. It takes patience. It takes humility. But once you have it, you don't need to talk louder. You just need to speak once, and people will listen. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. That's how trust turns communication into connection, and connection into lasting influence. Chapter 8. Mastering Emotional Intelligence in Conversations. Emotional intelligence isn't a theory. It's awareness in motion. It's the ability to read a room, feel an emotion, and respond with balance instead of impulse. It's not about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself. Every great communicator understands one truth. People don't respond to your words first. They respond to your energy. The emotion behind your message is louder than the message itself. If your energy is calm, people feel safe. If your energy is tense, they defend. If your energy is grounded, they open up. That's emotional intelligence, the quiet awareness of what's happening inside you and around you at the same time. In conversations, it's your superpower, because words carry logic, but emotion carries meaning. You can say everything right, but if your tone is wrong, nothing lands. And you can say very little, but if your tone carries empathy, everything connects. Emotional intelligence is what turns communication from performance into connection. It's what separates those who just talk from those who truly understand. To master it, you must learn to listen, not just to words, but to feelings. Listen to what's being said, but also to what's not being said. You can hear worry in a sigh. You can hear anger in a pause. You can hear fear in the quiet between sentences. Those moments tell you everything you need to know. When you sense emotion early, you prevent conflict later. That's the gift of emotional awareness. You see storms before they form. In conversations, emotionally intelligent people don't react, they respond. Reaction is instinct. Response is choice. Reaction protects ego. Response protects connection. Before responding, they breathe. That one small breath creates space between trigger and action. And in that space lives control. That's what keeps your voice steady, even when the other person is losing theirs. It's not weakness to stay calm. It's discipline. Because calm doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you choose what to feel louder. Emotionally intelligent communicators understand timing. They know when to speak, and when silence says more. They sense when a person needs comfort, and when they need truth. They can adjust without losing authenticity. That flexibility makes conversations smoother, relationships stronger, and influence deeper. At work, emotional intelligence separates good communicators from great ones. A good communicator shares information. A great one shares understanding. They can sense the mood of the room before the meeting even starts. They can see who's disengaged, who's defensive, who's ready to listen. And instead of ignoring emotion, they adapt to it. They don't push energy, they guide it. That's leadership through awareness. Because emotional intelligence isn't soft, it's strategic. It's what keeps communication human in a world obsessed with speed. When you understand emotion, you stop seeing people as difficult. You start seeing them as human, and that changes everything. If someone is rude, you see pain behind it. If someone is distant, you see fear beneath it. If someone is angry, you see unmet need. When you can see emotion without judgment, you respond with compassion instead of conflict. And compassion disarms faster than any argument. In personal relationships, emotional intelligence is intimacy. It's the ability to hold space for another person's feelings without making it about yourself. It's listening to understand, not to fix. It's saying, I hear you, instead of, you shouldn't feel that way. Because validation doesn't mean agreement. It means presence. Sometimes the most healing thing you can say is nothing. Just quiet empathy, just being there. That silence carries more love than advice ever could. In conversations, emotionally intelligent people choose curiosity over assumption. They don't rush to label someone's behavior. They explore it. They ask internally, what might they be feeling right now? That one thought changes tone, softens words, and builds trust. Because empathy opens doors logic never could. Even in disagreements, emotional intelligence keeps respect alive. It lets you say, I disagree, without making the other person feel disrespected. You attack the problem, not the person. And that difference turns conflict into clarity. Emotional intelligence also means managing your own triggers. You can't guide a conversation when you've lost control of your emotions. If anger rises, pause. If pride whispers, breathe. Ask yourself, what matters more, my point or our connection? That question saves relationships, because sometimes you win an argument, but lose the person. The goal of communication isn't victory, it's harmony. That doesn't mean avoiding truth. It means delivering truth with care. When you speak truth with calm emotion, people can receive it. When you speak truth with harsh emotion, people resist it. It's not the message that hurts, it's the manner. And emotional intelligence makes sure your message lands softly, even when it's hard. In leadership, emotional intelligence builds loyalty. People follow those who understand them, not those who intimidate them. When your team feels emotionally safe, they take risks, they share ideas, they trust you with their truth. That trust turns communication into collaboration, because no one opens up to someone who reacts with judgment. Emotional intelligence removes that fear. It tells people you can speak, you'll be heard. That's what makes a communicator magnetic. The ability to make others feel understood, even outside of work. Emotional intelligence changes the quality of every conversation. It makes you kinder without becoming weak. It makes you calm without becoming cold. It makes you confident without becoming hard. Because awareness sharpens you, and compassion softens you. Both are needed to stay balanced. To build emotional intelligence, start with reflection. After each conversation, replay it silently. What emotion did you bring into it? What emotion did they leave with? Did your words create tension or trust? That awareness trains your intuition. Over time, you'll start noticing emotion in real time, not after damage is done. And that's mastery, responding wisely in the moment, not regretting after it. Emotionally intelligent communication is the highest form of maturity, because it requires control, patience, and grace. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be aware. Awareness gives choice. Choice gives power. Power gives peace. When you master emotional intelligence, you stop fighting every feeling. You start guiding them. And when you guide emotions with empathy, your words begin to heal. People remember that. They remember how calm you stayed, how gently you spoke, how you made chaos feel safe. That's what separates a communicator who's heard from a communicator who's remembered, because people don't forget the voice that understood them when no one else did. That's emotional intelligence in its truest form. Not control over others, but compassion that transforms others. Master that, and you'll never have to force connection again. Your presence will do it for you. Chapter 9. The subtle power of nonverbal communication. You can say nothing and still speak volumes, because communication is not limited to words. It's written in your eyes, in your posture, in the rhythm of your breath. Every glance, every gesture, every silence, it all sends a message. That's the silent power of nonverbal communication. It's the language everyone speaks, yet few ever master. People may forget what you said, but they'll always remember how you looked when you said it. Your face is a story. Your tone is the soundtrack. Your body is the stage, and every moment you're performing, whether you realize it or not. Nonverbal communication is not performance for attention. It's alignment with truth. When your words and your energy match, people believe you. When they don't, they question everything. That's why your body never lies. You can hide behind words, but your gestures reveal your truth. A nervous hand, a shifting gaze, a tight jaw. They speak before your voice does. People read you faster than you speak. They scan your energy in seconds and decide, safe or unsafe, real or fake, open or guarded. That's how trust begins, and how it breaks. Nonverbal communication is emotional translation. It converts feeling into movement, and the body always tells the truth. The mouth avoids. When you're confident, your posture rises naturally. When you're scared, your shoulders collapse. When you're angry, your body tightens. You can't hide energy. You can only redirect it. That's why awareness matters. The more aware you are of your body, the more power you have over your presence. Presence. That quiet magnetism that fills a room before you speak. It's not in your looks. It's in your energy. It's the calm in your breath, the stillness in your movement, the steadiness in your gaze. People can feel it even if they can't explain it. That's why presence persuades faster than arguments. Nonverbal communication starts the moment you enter a space. The way you walk in tells people what to expect. If you rush, they feel tension. If you slouch, they sense insecurity. If you move with calm confidence, they feel safe. That's why the first impression happens before your first word. Your body speaks first. Your words follow later. When your tone, body, and words align, your message lands deeper. It doesn't just reach ears. It reaches emotion, because emotion is the true receiver of communication. People don't interpret your words literally. They interpret your energy emotionally. If your tone is kind, they'll forgive your words. If your tone is harsh, they'll doubt your intention. That's how fragile meaning becomes when emotion enters the room. So control your delivery. Master your tone. Because tone is the bridge between intention and interpretation. A calm tone during conflict builds peace. A raised tone, even if truthful, creates resistance. Lower your tone, and you'll raise your influence. Even silence speaks. The way you pause before answering, that space carries power. A pause can make your message feel thoughtful, or it can make your presence feel intimidating. It all depends on intention. Intention shapes interpretation. That's why emotional awareness is vital in nonverbal communication. When you feel calm, your gestures flow. When you feel anxious, they stiffen. The more control you have over your inner state, the more control you have over your outer expression. Great communicators don't fake calm. They practice it. They breathe before speaking. They center themselves before meetings. They walk slowly, speak clearly, move deliberately. Every gesture is intentional, never accidental. Because the body is always broadcasting your mind. Even your eyes, they tell stories words can't. When you look at someone fully, not staring, not glancing, but seeing, they feel acknowledged. Eye contact says, you matter. Avoidance says, you don't. But too much eye contact can overwhelm. Balance is the secret. Hold just enough to show confidence. Release just enough to show comfort. That rhythm builds connection without pressure. Your hands, too, are tools of communication. They emphasize emotion. They paint invisible pictures in the air. Keep them open, because open palms signal honesty. Closed fists signal defense. Every movement should match your message. If your words say, I'm listening, but your body leans away, people believe your body, not your words. That's why congruence is everything. When you're aligned inside and out, you don't need effort to be convincing. You simply become believable. Authenticity is the most persuasive body language. Even posture carries psychology. Stand tall, but relaxed. Strong, but open. A straight spine with soft shoulders communicates grounded strength. The kind that doesn't shout, but radiates stability. Confidence is quiet. Body language, it's slow, intentional, steady. People who move calmly appear in control. Those who fidget or rush seem uncertain. That's how emotion leaks through motion. So if you want your presence to communicate confidence, slow down. Breathe deeper. Move with awareness. Your movement becomes your message. At work, nonverbal communication defines leadership. The leader who walks calmly into chaos instantly creates order. Their tone reassures. Their posture steadies others. Their gestures say, I've got this. That's influence without a single word. Because leadership is less about instruction and more about energy. People don't copy what you say. They mirror how you feel. If you're calm, they calm. If you're anxious, they tense. Your emotional state becomes the environment. So protect your presence. Keep your energy clean. Your body is a transmitter. Be intentional about what it broadcasts. Even virtual communication carries nonverbal signals. Your tone on a call, your facial expression on video, they still shape perception. People can sense your attention, even through a screen. If you're distracted, they feel dismissed. If you're fully present, they feel seen. That's why presence is not about proximity. It's about focus. In conversations, small nonverbal cues build big trust. A nod shows agreement. A smile shows understanding. A tilt of the head shows empathy. Each signal says, I'm with you. And that feeling keeps connection alive. In personal relationships, nonverbal communication is everything. Love, care, comfort, they live more in touch and tone than in words. Sometimes the silence between two people says more than an hour-long talk ever could. A gentle glance across a room, a soft smile when words fail, a comforting touch when someone's breaking. Those moments build bonds that language can't describe. Because non-verbal communication is emotion made visible. If you want to improve it, start by becoming aware of your own. Record yourself speaking. Watch how you move. Notice your expressions. You'll discover your habits, the ones that help you, and the ones that hold you back. Then refine, not to perform, but to align. Alignment is authenticity made visible. Because when your inner calm matches your outer expression, you become unforgettable. You stop trying to appear confident. You start embodying it. Nonverbal mastery isn't about control. It's about awareness. You don't need to fake gestures. You need to feel the emotion you're expressing. When you truly feel empathy, your face softens naturally. When you feel joy, your eyes light up on their own. That's why the most powerful nonverbal communication is never acted, it's lived. In the end, your presence is your message. People remember how your energy felt long after your words fade. So speak with your body, communicate with your calm. Let your silence carry meaning. Let your gestures tell the truth your words can't. Because when your words and your presence move together, you don't talk, you influence. And that is the subtle, unstoppable power of nonverbal communication. Chapter 10. Becoming a master communicator. A master communicator doesn't just speak well. They connect deeply. They don't talk to impress. They talk to impact. They don't seek attention. They hold presence. Because mastery in communication isn't about volume. It's about value. It's the calm in your words, the clarity in your tone, the care in your intention. Every sentence becomes a mirror of your awareness. A master communicator doesn't focus on being perfect. They focus on being real. Perfection distances people. Authenticity draws them closer. When you speak with truth in your voice and calm in your spirit, people feel safe with you. They trust your message, even when it challenges them. That's mastery, when your honesty inspires, not intimidates. To become a master communicator, you must first master yourself. You can't control a room if you can't control your emotions. You can't lead others if you can't listen to them. Your voice carries the weight of your inner world. When your mind is cluttered, your message sounds heavy. When your heart is calm, your words flow clean. Mastery begins in silence. It's in the moments you observe, reflect, and understand. Before every great communicator speaks, they listen to others, to the room, to themselves. They don't rush to fill space. They create space for meaning to breathe. That's why silence is not absence. It's presence in disguise. The master communicator knows how to use it. They let their pauses carry weight. They let their stillness command attention. They let their voice enter softly. And yet, every word lands with power. Because power doesn't come from volume. It comes from conviction. And conviction only comes from truth. When you speak from truth, you don't chase agreement. You create alignment. People may not always agree with you, but they'll respect you because they'll feel your sincerity. And sincerity is the invisible force that gives communication its soul. Every great speaker, every leader, every person who ever moved others spoke from soul, not script. They didn't memorize lines. They lived messages. That's why they were unforgettable. To become a master communicator, stop trying to sound smart. Start trying to make others feel understood. Because the goal of communication is not to impress minds. It's to touch hearts. Words alone don't do that. Presence does. Presence is your real language. It's how you make people feel seen without saying their name. It's how you make them feel valued without using flattery. When you master presence, you can walk into any room and shift its energy Not by talking louder, but by being more aware. Awareness is the root of mastery. You can't influence what you don't understand. You can't understand what you don't observe. So observe more, notice more, feel more. Every conversation is teaching you something. Every silence is showing you something. Every reaction is revealing something. The master communicator learns from all of it. They study energy, not just words. They study tone, not just sentences. They study emotion, not just logic. That's how they adapt without losing authenticity. Because real communication is fluid. It moves, adjusts, and aligns with the moment. Rigidity breaks connection. Flexibility strengthens it. The more emotionally intelligent you become, the smoother your communication becomes. You start reading people effortlessly. You feel the temperature of a conversation, and you adjust your tone like an instrument. You become sensitive, but not weak, empathetic, but not manipulated, kind, but still clear. That's balance, and balance is mastery. The master communicator isn't afraid of disagreement. They see it as an opportunity to understand better. They don't take things personally. They separate message from emotion. They don't rush to react. They respond with grace, because composure is louder than anger. It's the sound of inner strength. When others lose control, your calm becomes leadership. You don't have to say much. Your stillness says everything. That's how great communicators rise, not through noise, but through peace. In persuasion, they remain patient. In criticism, they remain composed. In praise, they remain humble. Because ego is the enemy of communication. Ego makes you talk to be right. Empathy makes you talk to be understood. And mastery is choosing empathy, even when ego burns. When you communicate with that level of awareness, people feel something rare, trust. They trust your steadiness. They trust your intention. They trust your heart behind your words. That trust turns communication into influence. You no longer chase credibility, you become it. Because people follow calm certainty, not loud confidence. Mastery in communication is not a destination, it's a discipline. You refine it every day, with every conversation, with every silence you hold instead of filling, with every time you choose patience over pride. It's built through awareness, sharpened through reflection, and sustained through consistency. You don't become a master communicator overnight. You become one word by word, moment by moment, choice by choice. The greatest proof of mastery isn't how you speak to many. It's how you speak to one. How you talk to the person who can't help you. How you treat the one who disagrees with you. How you listen when no one's watching. That's where your true skill lives, in integrity. Because communication without integrity is manipulation. Communication with integrity is transformation. The transformation, that's what mastery does. It doesn't just inform, it changes people. It leaves them thinking clearer, feeling stronger, and believing deeper. That's your job as a communicator. Not to dominate the conversation, but to elevate it. The master communicator doesn't speak to be heard. They speak to awaken. They leave silence that echoes, words that linger, and emotions that last. Because their communication isn't performance. It's service. It's a gift to others. Every conversation becomes a chance to bring light where there's confusion, hope where there's doubt, and peace where there's noise. That's mastery. When your words become medicine, your presence becomes comfort, and your silence becomes wisdom. If you've walked this journey through the book, you've learned the tools. Now it's time to embody them. Speak with clarity, listen with empathy, act with integrity, and never forget, communication is not about sounding powerful. It's about being authentic, because authenticity is timeless. It doesn't fade. It doesn't need validation. It simply speaks, and the world listens. That's how you become a master communicator. Not by learning more words, but by living more truth. When your words align with your soul, your voice becomes unstoppable. You stop trying to talk like a pro. You start talking like yourself. And that is the highest form of communication.